Hi everyone, welcome to Cooking Sense, where we explore a variety of adaptive cooking techniques and tools for individuals with vision loss that teach you how to cook using your other senses. My name is Rose Visser. I'm an occupational therapist and instructor for activities of daily living at Vision Forward Association. This session is meant to just provide you a taste of some adaptive cooking techniques and tools. If you want some more one-on-one training, I recommend that you get in touch with us. We offer one-on-one training in cooking skills and other activities of daily living. Managing your laundry, taking medications, all of those essential daily living tasks. You can get in touch with us through our website at www.vision-forward.org or through our phone number at 414-615-0100. One other thing before we get started, at the end of today's session, please help us to continue to provide programming like this in the future by filling out an online survey. You can access the survey through our website at www.vision-forward.org/enrichment survey. In today's session, we are going to be talking about small appliances. We're going to be talking about some adaptations for safely using a variety of small appliances. Spring is a great time to do some spring cleaning, and that includes cleaning of your kitchen and organizing your kitchen, including taking inventory of all the small appliances you may have kind of sitting around. So today we want to talk about a little bit about safety in using your small appliances and how to make sure they are labeled and accessible for you to use. But first, let's talk a little bit about some of the advantages and disadvantages of using your small appliances. First, a couple tips, a couple things about disadvantages. Small appliances can clutter up your kitchen, as you probably know if you have a variety of small appliances. There's some really cool gadgets and small appliances out there, but it's easy to start to kind of collect them and let them clutter up your kitchen. And clutter is dangerous and difficult if you have some vision loss because it takes up space, it makes it more difficult to find your items. It takes time to feel all of your items and find your small appliances and other tools. So it's important to not let those small appliances clutter up your kitchen. Small appliances also use electricity, so there is a need to plug them in. Most of them have cords. You want to be careful with those cords, that they're not draping around, that you could trip over them, and just the idea that they're going to use some electricity, which could end up being costly. But the advantages of using small appliances, one is that it can save you some time. Cooking with a small appliance can be much quicker than cooking with the stove or oven, for example. They also can save you some money. A lot of times small appliances can be a little bit more inexpensive than, say, buying a new stove or an oven. They also can just be a nice alternative to using the stove or oven or an outdoor grill. If you are nervous about using a stove or oven, maybe you've burned yourself, you just have a little bit of fear with using them, maybe consider using like an air fryer or an Instant Pot or some of these other small appliances that we'll talk about. They also just often simplify the cooking process. So a lot of times with small appliances, there's very few steps to prep and get your food ready. A lot of them you just kind of put your items inside of and press buttons and it goes. So it can really simplify that cooking process, and it can also just take a little bit less effort to cook something. It definitely saves you some time. Let's talk a little bit about storing your small appliances. We talked a little bit about clutter and how important it is to kind of keep your countertops clutter-free. If you do have a lot of small appliances, if you own a lot, only keep out on your countertops the ones that you more commonly use. Keurigs or coffee makers are a good example. Those are things that if you drink coffee, you're probably drinking it every day. So that's something you want to keep on your counter, keep it accessible to you. Microwaves are another good example. We use our microwaves a lot. So making sure that also is setting in a nice spot on your countertop. Making sure that you can reach them easily too. Sometimes when people start to collect a lot of small appliances, they end up kind of pushing their small appliances in awkward positions, so they have to reach over things to get at them. So make sure that that you can reach them easily, especially with things like a coffee maker where you're going to be transporting a hot mug of coffee. So make sure that you can easily reach them. And then the other small appliances, you don't have to get rid of them, but maybe consider storing them, in a cupboard or on shelves. Open shelving units are great because then they're easy to get at, but they're kind of tucked away, so you can easily find them. Or, in basements and in places like that. The important thing is to make sure that they're not taking up a lot of counter space. When you're cooking and preparing food in the kitchen, your countertops are pretty important. Those become spots for doing your prep work, for setting items on that you need to get to in a little bit. So making sure you have some clear counter space is important. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about ways to store your small appliances. An important consideration when you do have small appliances is cleaning them. Any appliance, your stove, your oven, your microwave, whatever appliances you have are going to need to be cleaned, unfortunately, unless they have a self-clean feature like your stove does. But you are going to have to clean them. So what you want to do in general is, unplug them, turn them off, wait a little bit until the hot parts of them have cooled down a little bit. But you don't want to wait too long where you go in the other room and you forget about it until the next time you pull out your appliance and you realize, oh, I didn't clean that off the last time. So even if you have to set yourself a little timer, make sure you allow it to cool off and then wipe down all the different parts to your small appliance. And again, importantly, make sure that you unplug it immediately after using your appliance. One thing that you can do too is a lot of small appliances have removable parts to them. This appliance that I'm holding onto right now is called an OptiGrill, and it's kind of like a George Foreman grill. But what's nice about this grill is it has removable plates. So there's an upper plate and a lower plate. There's a little button that you press and the plate comes right off. That is great. If you can remove any parts, then you can easily, put them in your dishwasher or bring them over to your sink, and it's a lot easier to wash them off. So this grill has some nice removable plates. Your Keurig also has removable parts to it. The water tray, you can easily pull that off and clean that as well. The Instant Pot also, and air fryers have some great removable pots that you can pull out. Again, make sure they cool off a little bit first, and then bring them over to your sink and you can clean them effectively that way. Also, keep in mind if there are any condensation collectors. Small appliances that emit steam are probably going to have some condensation collectors, and they're basically a little cup, usually at the back of the device, that collects any water, any condensation while you're cooking. So the Instant Pot has one at the back of the device. A rice cooker may also have one as well. And they're typically pretty easy to find using your sense of touch. Just kind of reach around the back of the device, and they usually just pull off pretty easily. Be careful because they will be full of that, dirty or sometimes hot liquid. Empty them out, rinse them out in your sink, and then you can easily just kind of clip them back onto the back of the device. They go on pretty easily. So make sure you kind of pay attention to that. And then wipe off the surfaces of your small appliance as well. So you can pretty much count on your surfaces of your Instant Pot, air fryers, OptiGrill, whatever it is, getting dirty. There's going to be grease. There's also going to be just, germs from touching the control panels. So really pay attention to those areas that are going to easily get dirty. And then just, use like a wet cloth. You obviously don't want to submerge small appliances, electrical devices into water. So you want to take like a wet cloth or Clorox wipes, something like that, and wipe down the surfaces, the control panel, the upper surfaces of your appliances. Just a little tip about wiping off a surface. So with vision loss, it can be tough to tell if you really do have your surface nice and clean. So when you are wiping off a surface, you want to use what we call a systematic pattern, meaning wiping in kind of the same way each time to make sure that you have it nice and clean. So for example, if I were to clean off the top surface of this OptiGrill, I wouldn't just start wiping any which way because I may miss a spot. So what I would do is start in the upper left corner, for example, and that's something I can feel. And then once I have the upper left corner, I'm going to move my rag back and forth as I work my way down the surface. So I'm kind of working my way down. And then once I get to the bottom of that surface, I'm not done. I'm going to move that towel back up to that same starting point, upper left corner, and then go up and down over that same surface and work my way across. So we're using a systematic pattern. We're cleaning in two directions because if I miss something the first time, I'm going to catch it the second time. And ooh, that was pretty dirty. So that's kind of the pattern you want to use when you're wiping down any appliance. You know, maybe start always from left to right or whatever way you want to do it to make sure that you get all of your surfaces clean. So again, cleaning off your devices is a very important part of using them. That's part of the cooking process. Another thing that's important is to just be familiar with the features of your appliance. When you first get your small appliance, it's going to be in a box with lots of styrofoam and packing materials, and there'll probably be an instruction manual. So make sure you kind of pull out everything out of that box and use your sense of touch. You can really tell a lot about the appliance itself just by exploring it with your sense of touch. So take some time, make sure you keep the appliance unplugged, and feel around it. Feel for that control panel. Feel for how it opens up and closes. Feel for the cooking surfaces. If there are some removable parts, like the pans, make sure that you pull off the cover, pull out the pan, and use your sense of touch to really explore all of the parts. That's a great way just to kind of get familiar with it and have a brief understanding of maybe how the control panel works. A lot of control panels are completely flat, and we're going to talk in just a minute about some tips for labeling those so that you can use them. But again, make sure you explore them. That instruction manual that comes with your appliance, so it's going to be in print, so you may not be able to see the manual. So what you want to do is, there's a couple ways to access that. You can access the instruction manual online. So if you have a computer and you're familiar with using like screen readers or screen magnifiers, those types of software programs, you can just look up that instruction manual on your computer. And that's a great way to easily open it up, refer back to different sections of that instruction manual. You can also access that from your phone if you are familiar with iPhones and VoiceOver and some of those accessibility features. That too is a great way to get at that instruction manual and just kind of listen to some of the important features. That's also a great way to access the recipes that go along with each of these small appliances, is to just go on their website. They have some great recipes in their instruction manuals as well. You can also, if you know Braille, you could create a little Braille manual. You probably don't want to Braille up the entire instruction manual unless you want to, but you can Braille up little tips that you find helpful in the instruction manual. There are also apps on your phone that can be helpful for reading print information. So if you have the actual print instruction manual, there are some apps. Seeing AI is one on iPhones that can be helpful. And a lot of the apps work by taking a picture of the print document, and then it's going to play back that information. So that could be one way that could be helpful for using your iPhones, your smartphones, to actually read print materials. There are also a lot of technology out there, standalone devices that can be helpful with that as well. And if you're interested in learning more about that accessible technology, you can get in touch with Vision Forward for more information on that. Okay, let's talk about labeling your appliance and accessing the controls on your small appliance. Again, a lot of times the small appliance, the control panel is flat or has very poor contrast, and it's hard to see all of your buttons and your features. But there are some ways that you can label your control panel so it's easy to access. I want to show you just a couple of labeling tools. One is bump dots. Bump dots are great labeling tools. Bump dots are basically raised stickers. They come in nice bright colors like this bright orange, and they're made to be very durable and heat resistant. So you can put them on small appliances that are going to get hot. And they stick pretty well, but if you had to get the bump dot off, you could. You can use a little butter knife to kind of get under it. But these are a great way to label your appliances, and I'll show you on some of our appliances here how we've used these. We also have something called spot and line pen, which is like a tactile paint. And it works very similar to the bump dots, but it's a paint. So you squeeze out a little dot, or you can also squeeze out a little symbol, like a line or a plus sign, and then you allow time for it to dry. And then once it's dried, then you can easily touch the surface of that marking. You can feel it, it's raised up. And then it also, again, comes in the bright orange color. So if you have some vision, that bright orange color against maybe like a black background is really going to stand out, be easier to see. There's also something called Wiki Sticks or Craft Wax, which is comes in lots of different colors, but what's nice about it is it's something you can feel. And then, so it comes in like a little line, a little strip here. You can cut it into smaller pieces, and then what you do is you press it on a surface, and then it sticks really well because it's wax, and then you can easily pull it off as well. So you could cut this and form it into different symbols, again, a plus sign, minus sign, different letters. So it's a great way to make a nice quick symbol. It is wax, so you don't want to put it right on the surface that gets hot. It's usually okay to put it on your control panel, but any other surfaces of your small appliance you don't want to put it on because it could melt. It is wax. There are also stickers that you can get. These are number stickers that are white numbers on a black background. These are particularly useful for your microwave keypad. A lot of times microwave keypads, again, have very poor contrast. The numbers are small, so you could put one of these numbers on each of the numbers on your microwave. It's kind of, the stickers are kind of laminated a little bit, so you can easily wipe them off and keep your appliances nice and clean. If you know Braille, you could also create Braille labels, which we've done for some of our appliances here. This is just a sheet of clear material so that you can create your Braille labels. It's sticky on the other side. And then also a little slate and stylus that we use to poke and make the Braille symbols. So that's a great way to add some of those sticky labels onto your small appliance. There are also a little bit higher tech tools. This one is called the Pen Friend. And how it works is it's a little device that comes with stickers. Circle or square stickers. It also comes with magnet stickers. And what you do is you turn on the device and pressing down the power button. And then what you do is you use your voice to record information onto those labels. So you could record the name of some of these different buttons. You could record maybe instructions or some tips that you want to learn about the device or to remember about the device. And then to listen to that information, all you do is touch the tip of the device to that label. So let me give you an example for this one. I have an Instant Pot here, and I have my control panel that has lots of different settings on it. A lot of times Instant Pots have quite a few settings. So I want to just kind of remember, the layout of this. If I can't see those settings, I want some way to remember how those buttons are laid out. So I put a little circle Pen Friend label in the upper left corner of my control panel. I put a little piece of tape over it to protect it, because these labels, the pen friend labels, are stickers. So you do want to protect it from, getting wet or condensation. So I just put a little piece of packing tape over the top to really kind of laminate it and protect it. But what I did is I recorded just some information about how these buttons are laid out. I put my sticker in the upper left corner of my control panel. Most control panels on your devices have some sort of a border that you can feel around them. So I can feel the border of my control panel, and I can feel that I put my label on the upper left corner. So to use my pen friend to listen to that label, all I do is touch the tip of the device to that label.
The control panel for the Instant Pot. Starting in the upper left corner and moving down the control panel. Soup, meat or stew, bean or chili.
So I just stopped it. So I'm just kind of reviewing where all those buttons are, where they're located. You could also record information from that instruction manual that we talked about earlier. You could record any tips, any recipes onto that label if you want as well. So that's the pen friend. So let's just take a quick little peek at some of these appliances and how we have used some labels on them. On the far, your far right, my far left here, this is an air fryer. This air fryer we have purchased specifically because it uses dials to operate it. So when you are going to buy your small appliance, really take some time and again, even in the store, feel them and try to figure out how they operate. Dials are great because they're easy to label and to mark. So how we've marked them is we always put some sort of a label on, like around the outside of the dial as like our starting point. So I have 2 dials on this small appliance, and I've put a little dot made out of the spot and line pen as my starting point. And then what we do is we put some sort of a label on the dial itself for our settings that we want to know where they're at. So I could put like a little line or a dot on the dial, and then all I do is turn the dial until those 2 dots or markings line up, and that's how I use a dial. Now these markings, again, they're a bright orange color, so if you have some vision, you're going to be able to see where they're at. I could also use, on the upper dial, I have a little orange bump dot, so again, that bright orange color is helpful, but then also if I have no vision, I can feel the texture of those bump dots and markings. And again, you just mark your setting and then mark a starting point right next to the dial and just turn the dial until those two markings line up. So that's how we've marked our air fryer. For our Instant Pot, we already talked a little bit about this. We put our pen friend label that has our description of the control panel, but I also put Braille labels on each of the different settings on my Instant Pot. So if you know Braille, that's a great way to just quickly feel and figure out where the buttons are. I also use spot and line pen to make a minus sign and a plus sign. Again, that's a great way to see and feel those settings. I used my wiki sticks or craft wax to make a T for the timer feature on this control panel. And then I also used a bump dot on I think it's the stop clear button. The stop clear button is kind of a main one that you're going to want to use when you're using an Instant Pot, and so that's why I made that marking maybe a little bigger, a nice big bump dot on that one. And then I also marked on the very top of the Instant Pot my little vent settings, which are good to be aware of. I just made a V with the spot and line pen and an S for steam. And so if you have some vision, you're going to be able to see those bright colors at good contrast, but you can also use your sense of touch to feel that. Again, be aware that Instant Pots have a lot of settings on them that you'll have to learn how to use and access. The OptiGrill is a nice device to use, nice small appliance to use because it's not super complicated as far as the control panel goes. I used a clear bump dot, so if you have no vision, you can easily feel that bump dot on the power button. So that's kind of my main button. And then it has different settings for defrost and then also for the different types of of things that you're going to grill. And so I put Braille labels on each of those. Again, you could also use your pen friend to record what those settings are. I made an M with my spot and line pen for manual. If you hit that button, then you can kind of plug in your own settings. And then I also put a little bump dot on the OK button. And the OptiGrill is nice because it also uses auditory cues. It uses beeps. So if you're cooking maybe a piece of meat in here, a steak for example, and you want it to be rare, what you're going to do is you're going to listen to that first beep. It'll beep once to tell you that it's ready to take out if it's rare. It'll beep a second time when it's ready for medium, and then maybe a third time for medium well. So you're going to also listen to those beeps, which is really nice. It uses those auditory cues. So again, that's the OptiGrill. It's similar to a George Foreman grill. And then my Instant Pot, my Keurig. Keurigs are pretty easy to figure out by using your sense of touch. You usually don't have to put any sort of labels on them. The buttons for the size of cup that you want are different sizes. And you can also remember moving from left to right. The left one is for a really small cup, the middle one is for a medium-sized cup, and the right one is for a big cup. But then there's a couple of other buttons up a little higher. There's an auto off button and your power button that could get a little bit confusing. So I just put a bump dot on my power button. And so that's one great way that I would label that. In your microwave, again, some of those labels that I showed you, the number stickers, the spot and line pen, the bump dots, and your wiki sticks can all be useful tools for labeling your microwave as well. And again, keep in mind, some of the things I mentioned about when you're purchasing your appliances really take some time to search and find the right one for you. There are also apps on your smartphone that can be helpful for reading some of those control panels. There's an app called Be My Eyes that allows you to take a picture of something, and then you have volunteers on the other end that can help you to tell what that item is. So you could take a picture of your Instant Pot, for example, and then maybe point to one setting or ask the volunteer, where is my soup button? And they will kind of guide you verbally through how to find that soup button. So some of the technology on our smartphones can be helpful for that as well. I want to give you a couple of little tips for when you are plugging in your small appliance or any type of electrical device, because it can be a little bit tricky. It can be hard to find the outlet and to position your little plug and figure out how to plug it in. Couple things with your outlet. You want to maybe look for outlet covers that are a darker color, an opposite color of your outlet. Ours right here are probably not the best, but I would recommend finding a light switch cover that is maybe black if your outlet part is white. If you have some vision, that contrast is really going to make that outlet just kind of stand out, make it easier to see. And then something else for the plug, I put a little bump dot, a bright orange bump dot on the top of the plug in the position where it's easy to just go ahead and plug it in. So again, if you have some vision, you'll be able to see that orange bump dot, but you can also feel it. So typically with outlets, the two-prong outlet, the left side of it is the larger one. So think left larger. So when you have your little plug, you can kind of use your sense of touch to feel which one is a little bit bigger, which of the plug sides of the plug is bigger. And then once you know that, once you have your bump dot, once you have your plug positioned where it's ready to go in, your free hand is going to find the outlet. Now you do have to be careful with this part. We have electricity here. So make sure your hands are nice and dry, make sure they're not wet, and just kind of gently move over where the outlet is. And then what you're gonna do is bring that little plug over and make sure it's positioned in the correct way. Use your sense of touch on both hands together to feel where it goes, and then plug it in.